Hey friends, let me just get comfy here. Snuggle in with me. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that I think is really important right now. I think there are so many of us that are wanting to quit our full-time jobs or are thinking about it, or we've got a side hustle going and we're like, is it the right time to quit my job? When do I do that? How do I know? That kind of thing. So I think it's important to chat about it. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Kristen Bagwell, and I am a full-time freelancer, creative, business owner, among other things, photographer, writer, poet, all of that stuff. And I've been doing this now for about 4.5 years. And I have learned so much along the way. It's bananas how much I've learned, how much I've had to, come through and figure out and all of that. And so what I want to do is talk about kind of what people aren't talking about when it comes to leaving your full-time job, quitting your full-time job. I did that 4.5 years ago. I jumped off that cliff, left the corporate world, and started out on my own. And I can tell you why in a little bit, but or kind of give you what was my push to actually do that, to take that leap. But first, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the idea I have for this video, and then the ones that I think are going to follow it. Excuse me. So I was originally just going to do one video that was all about the things that no one's talking about when it comes to leaving your full-time job. And since then, I've had so many thoughts about what I need to include in the video that I think I actually need to break it up into multiple videos. So I'm going to create a little series of videos on the same topic about quitting your full-time job and taking that leap into becoming a freelancer or a small business owner, or a business owner. It doesn't have to be small necessarily. Or quitting your full-time job in order to take your side hustle full-time. So I think there are so many things that you need to know before you make that decision. And it's so important that you understand different perspectives. And I know there's a lot of this information out there on the internet, but this is my perspective and nobody else really has that. So maybe it's helpful, I hope. I mean, that's my intention, is that it's helpful for you. If you are in the midst of trying to make that decision, or if you have recently made that leap and you're like floundering trying to figure it out, because I've been there. And I'm no expert by any means. I just have my own experience to draw on. So, take what I say with a grain of salt. And my only solid piece of advice for you is to follow your own instincts, follow your own internal guidance, follow your own heart, your own soul, because truly we are the only people who knows what's right for us, for ourselves. And while it's really, really hard to know what's right for you sometimes, or what's right for yourself, it's so important that we don't let other people weigh in on that, especially when it's something as huge as leaving your full-time job. I mean, that's huge, you guys. It's so hard to do that. And it takes so much courage, and it takes so much heart, and it takes so much trust in yourself to actually make that leap and dive off that cliff and jump into something that's so uncertain and that maybe you've never done before, and maybe you weren't even really trained for it, or maybe you don't know how to run a business, or it can be really, really terrifying to do something like that, especially if you have a wonderful full-time job, or even a full-time job that's tolerable. It's so much harder to leave, or to know when to leave, because you've got that comfort, that security, you've got that steady income, that paycheck, those benefits, you've got that, that work team that's kind of got your back, or you've got a good boss, maybe, hopefully you have a good boss. And it's really hard to make the decision to jump from something that feels secure and certain into a world that is completely undefined. Because that's what business ownership, and that's what freelancing and entrepreneurship and all of those things, that's what it is. It's unscripted, it's undefined. Nobody else gets to tell you what it's supposed to look like. So it's all up to you, and that's one of the good things and one of the, hard things too. So So, long story short, this video series is going to be probably 4 videos, I think. I know. I have a lot to say, apparently, on this topic. But I want to cover the good, the bad, the ugly, and then what to do about all of it, or maybe some little snippets of advice, some things I've learned along the way, maybe any wisdom that I have to share. I would love to cover that too. So I think today, the first thing I want to cover is the good. So, and also be sure to stick around to the last of the video, to the end, because I actually do have a bonus tip for you guys. So I'm going to talk about the 3 good things that no one really tells you about quitting your job first, okay? And then in the next video, we'll cover the bad, and then we'll go over the really bad, the ugly, and then, like I said, that maybe that advice or recommendation video. So on this one, we're going to cover the 3 things that nobody's really talking about, but they're really great things about leaving your full-time job. This is not to encourage you to leave your full-time job. This is just the real about what you'll find potentially if you do decide to leave and quit your full-time job. So 3 things that I found whenever I quit my full-time job. Number 1, freedom. Freedom, pure freedom. You have the freedom to design your day, design your year, design your life, design your work, design your schedule, and it's all suddenly by design. You have to decide and design it for yourself rather than by default. And I'm going to say that with a little caveat, because what I found when I first quit my job was that I was defaulting into the same schedule that I had had for many years, and I was, going to bed at like 10:30, and I was waking up at 7 or 6:30 and trying to do that same 8-hour stretch that I used to do at a full-time job. And what I found quickly was that doesn't really work for me. I would find myself staying up later and later, and then suddenly I was up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I wasn't getting out of bed until like 9. And one of the things I'll talk about in another video is how that can make you feel, and the guilt that can come along with that. And the shame, and all those nasty feelings that can come along with not getting out of bed at the same time as everybody else in your world, or kind of creating your own schedule. So the beauty of it is, though, that you do get to design everything. You get to decide when you get out of bed. You get to decide when you start working. You get to decide what you're going to work on. You get to decide who you're going to work with. You get to decide how you're going to actually do the work. It's pure freedom. I mean, there's no other word to explain it. And I know so many people talk about the freedom of quitting your job and going into, work for yourself or become a freelancer. But the piece that nobody's really telling you is that freedom it's something that I think we all want inherently. Like it's such a driver for so many of us, where we crave freedom so much. Freedom has its challenges, which we'll talk about in other videos, but in this video, the thing that nobody's talking about is that you're free literally to do whatever you want, whenever you want to. And while your business may have, you may have deadlines, and you may have things that you're obligated to do at certain times, you may have seasons that are busier, you will have seasons that are busier than others. But the thing nobody really tells you is that the freedom is ultimate. You get to design it all. And that is, I can't even explain to you guys. It's incredible. For me personally, I'll just give you a little example. I went through a couple of years of trying to figure out what worked for me and what didn't. And I'm very fortunate in that I don't have a husband, I don't have children, I don't even have pets right now. So I have like absolute freedom. I'm pretty nomadic. I can kind of go wherever. My business is virtual, so I can literally go wherever. And it takes some getting used to, and it takes some, I want to say, like exploration. It takes exploring what works, what doesn't, what feels good, what doesn't, what's best for your natural cycles, your natural rhythms. If you're a person who does like personality assessments like an Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs, or if you do like human design or astrology even, if you're looking into any of those things, you can actually start to design your day around your own personality type, which is something that you were never able to do whenever you were working full-time, I can almost guarantee you. So, you know, there's just so much freedom in it. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. It takes some getting used to, like I said, but you can literally design every component of your day, your work, your life. And that's pretty freaking incredible. So that's the number one benefit that nobody's really talking about. Nobody's really going in depth about how much freedom you actually have when you leave your full-time job. So hopefully that was helpful. I mean, you get complete ownership over your entire life experience, and that is, it's crazy pants because we don't normally have that. So it's super fun. But it's also challenging, and we'll talk more about that later. So the second benefit that nobody's really telling you about leaving your full-time job is that you suddenly have unlimited income potential. You can literally make as much money as you want. Like, it's that simple. I mean, depending on your business type or the freelancing, you know, the type of work that you go into, it depends how much you make. It depends on the prices that you set for yourself, the prices that your customers are willing to pay. But there's a caveat to that, which I'll probably discuss in another video. But people will pay you for value. People buy what you do, or people buy why you do, not what you do. So if you provide value and you show them why you're doing what you're doing, people will pay. So you can name your own prices. You get to decide how many hours you work. You get to decide, you know, the amount of money that you want to make, and then you set that goal, and then you can actually set, you know, milestones to get there. So I mean, the ceiling is gone. You know, there's no more salary cap. There's no more, am I going to get a raise this year? Or am I not going to get a raise this year? Or is my raise going to be 2%? Is it going to be 4%? You know, there's no more of that unless you're doing that for yourself. And so that is incredible. Setting pricing is one of the most challenging things that you'll ever do, I think, as a freelancer or a creative or a business owner. So that is, that's maybe another video topic, honestly, because there's so much tied up in how to set pricing whenever you're working for yourself or whenever you're not working for another corporation, that I think would be really interesting to talk about. So maybe we'll do that in another video. So that's number 2, unlimited income potential. You can literally earn as much as you want, which, I mean, that's unheard of, right? Like, it seems like so few people have that opportunity, but when you work for yourself, I mean, you can literally earn $10,000 a year. You can earn 100,000 a year, or whatever, 10 million a year, and as a matter of fact. So it's really just unlimited. Okay, so the third thing that nobody's really telling you about leaving your full-time job and going to work for yourself, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a creative, a freelancer, or a small business owner, is that suddenly, you know, you might have thought that your work was aligned with your purpose in life or your soul, or it was something that you were truly passionate about when you were working in corporate or when you were working for another company. But when you go to work for yourself, you realize that suddenly, no matter what shifts you need to make it happen, you can actually align your work with your purpose on this earth, your life mission, the goals you want to achieve, your soul's calling, whatever your heart desires. You suddenly get to, I just got goosebumps. You suddenly get to decide what's important to you, and you get to work in ways that are in alignment with that, with who you are at your core, which is, I mean, I keep saying things like incredible and amazing, and, you know, it's unheard of, it's crazy pants, but it's just so, it's so enriching, and it's so fulfilling, and it's suddenly the world is your oyster. And that's a cheesy saying, and sorry, apologies for the cheesy saying, but it's true, because you can literally do, like I said before, you have ultimate freedom, and you have ultimate income, earning potential, And you get to decide what that looks like for you. So you get to decide suddenly what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how to align what you're working on and how you bring in money with your soul's calling, if you believe in that kind of thing. So it's truly it's fun, you know. It's like getting to discover who you are authentically in your core, and then bringing that whole person, that whole soul, that whole being into what you're doing in the world, and what, you know, what you're bringing forth, and the projects you take on, and the clients that you work with, and suddenly everything kind of gets to line up and make sense, you know. So those are the 3 things that nobody's really talking about, but they're really freaking awesome about quitting your full-time job, that I have experienced, and that I know from talking with others that other people who've done the same thing kind of have the same experience. So that's pretty cool. And then the 4th, I'm going to give you a 4th, a little bonus. The 4th thing that you'll find or maybe experience when you leave your full-time job, potentially, is that you just have better health in general. You sleep better. You are more fulfilled in your life, most likely. And so you are, you know, you're getting more done in a day that's important to you, and you're getting to spend time with friends and family, and there's less stress, and there's less demand, and there's less stuff you have to do that maybe you don't want to do for somebody else, at least. And while owning a business is super challenging, can be super stressful, and, you know, it just depends on how you do it. But ultimately, I have experienced, I used to have heartburn all the time, indigestion, heartburn all the time. I used to have lots and lots of tension in my shoulders, and I used to hold a lot of tension between my shoulder blades and in my neck. And then I would get tension migraines that would run up the back of my neck, and then they would take me out for like 3 days at a time. I used to have I used to be just less satisfied and less happy, and I used to be lots less authentic, because I was hiding in my corporate identity, you know, and I wasn't allowing myself to really truly fully express myself. And so when I started working for myself, which I'll tell the story of how that happened in just a second, but I suddenly found that I was able to like get out and take walks in the middle of the day if I wanted to, or whenever the weather was convenient. I found that I could do yoga in the mornings, and I had plenty of time to do that before I started work. So take this with a grain of salt, because it depends on how you do it, but you can experience significantly improved health. Stress is one of the biggest causes of inflammation in our bodies, and inflammation in our bodies is one of the biggest causes of disease. And if you take away a lot of that stress that was superimposed on you by other people, by corporate, bosses or clients or whatever, even just structure and culture, then you remove that stress out, and suddenly there's less inflammation in your body, and you'll start to feel better too. So that's what I've got on the benefits, at least that I haven't really heard many people talking about a whole lot. And I think it's important that you understand those things. And I'm going to also say a little bit of a disclaimer. All of those things can have challenges that come along with them. And so in the next two videos, I'm going to go into the bad things that nobody's telling you about quitting your full-time job, and then the really truly challenging things that can get kind of gnarly and really, really challenge you, because there's lots of those too. So really quickly, I'll tell you my story about how I became a freelancer or quit my full-time job, what led me to that decision. So for me, I was working in corporate America. I had worked in Fortune 500 finance. I worked at Boeing doing international finance for several years. Then I worked in an higher educational environment where I thought it would be more altruistic than being in corporate America. So I quit that job and went into higher education, thinking I would love that more. And while I enjoyed the job more, I did not enjoy the structure. It was still a very very much hierarchical structure, and there was lots of micromanaging and that kind of thing, so that wasn't for me. And I jumped into working for state government in HR, doing training and development and career development. And in that role, I became a manager, and for the first time, which was really cool. And I just had the best experience. I'm not even kidding you guys. I had the best job. I did. I had the best job that I think you could possibly ever have whenever you're working for somebody else. I worked remotely. I had a fantastic team that I got to hire most of them. We each had our own little skill set, and we each complemented each other beautifully. I had leadership that was super empowering. It was a very creative role, and yet there was lots of strategy and logic included as well, which is a fabulous balance for the type of personality that I have. I was paid decently. I was working in state government, so I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was paid better in state government than I was in corporate America. So there you go. There's a little myth buster too. I actually made more at MoDOT than I did at Boeing. So there's that. And then, I just had the best job was the moral of that story. And so when it came time to leave, sorry about the door. When it came time to leave, it was really, really hard to make that decision. But how I was able to make that decision was an opportunity came my way that was literally like somebody had taken the dreams out of my head and my heart and handed them to me in the form of a job opportunity. It was freelancing, it was marketing and business consultation, it was writing, it was a small business where it was very community based, it was creative, it was fun. The opportunity was also included international travel, and everything was going to be covered, and so it was kind of like, it's kind of a no-brainer. The only thing that hung me up, and this is the practical side of me, was that I wasn't sure about not having benefits, and so the guy who was offering me the freelance position was like, well, I'll just cover your healthcare too. And I was like, okay, sold, gotta go. Love you guys at MoDOT, but I gotta go. And they all understood because they all knew who I was. I was able to be really authentic in that job, and they knew that traveling was important to me, having freedom was important to me, writing was important to me. They all knew that. So whenever it was time for me to go, they were like, yeah, you're in a good place. Our team was in a great spot. I had team members who were ready to move up, and they couldn't have done that unless, for my position at the time. So it was kind of like the stars aligned for me personally, and it was just obvious that it was time for me to go. It just seemed like the right time. And also, it was still really challenging because now there's a train going by. There was so much of myself that I had tied up in my work, and I had to decide that it was going to be okay to be less certain about my future and to leap out of something that was beautiful and wonderful and creative and fun into something that was unknown. And it's that unknown factor that can really be scary. And so for me, it was literally just the right opportunity at the right time. And it was just, I was ready personally to face the fear of jumping off that cliff and actually go do it. So that's what I did. And yeah, it's been an interesting 4.5 years, I'll say that. Lots and lots and lots and lots has changed. But I don't want to be cheesy again, but the only thing I can think to say is I wouldn't change any of it. I really wouldn't. It has been an incredible experience, and it has led me to be more aligned with my own soul. It's led me to be more authentic, and I have more freedom than I've ever had before. So hopefully this video was helpful. Feel free to drop down in the comments and chit chat about any of the topics that kind of spoke to you. If there's one certain point that really hit you, let me know. And otherwise, I will see you guys next week with the bad things that nobody's telling you about quitting your full-time job. So until then, take care. All my love.